All right, everybody. Here's Coach Lamb. Questions for Coach. Alex, go ahead.
Good evening, Coach. Just kind of curious as to how much of Arizona State have you kind of looked at from a defensive perspective, and what challenges do they present in your estimation?
Our entire defensive staff has looked at every game they played this year and last year, and then we went back. The offensive coordinator has a history at Boise State, and so we actually have experience there facing some of his philosophies. Things change for everybody over the course of a season, much less a couple of years, but there are some consistencies. The things that schematically give us issues are the number of formations and shifts and motions. And there's a good balance between vertical play and horizontal play by the offense. They attack you both ways. And then from a personnel standpoint, Arizona State has a lot of speed, a lot of a dynamic ability. That all starts with the backfield, their quarterback and their running back, and they've got good players, really at every position. It's a major challenge for us.
Okay, let's go Jared and then Sean.
Hey, Ed. I wanted to kind of talk philosophically about the defense, because it seems like you and the staff has been building up to a point where you can be a little bit more aggressive. What's made the difference that has allowed you to kind of call more blitzes and be more aggressive up front?
Yeah, the recruitment and development of man-to-man players in the secondary. That's if you're going to be aggressive, there's just really not a way to be aggressive with zone defenses if aggression is blitz. And sometimes, as coaches, we have to consider, how we want to be aggressive. Flooding the backfield is one way to be aggressive. Flooding the defensive backfield is another way to be aggressive against the forward pass. And there's been times we had to do that. But right now we feel like we're at a really good place with our corners and their ability to match up man-to-man, safeties as well. Linebackers that can bring pressure, and defensive line that are stout and are getting better and better. Some of those young guys in their pass rushing abilities. So I think it's a good coach, probably in any sport, I would imagine, just does what their players can do best.
How much fun is it to be able to have those options this year? Because you guys have dialed up a lot of blitzes.
I think that I know players like to be challenged to play as much one-on-one as they can, to be as aggressive as they can, to create as much havoc as they can. And so it's fun to be able to put them in systems where, where you feel like we're showing them that we have confidence in their ability to win one-on-one matchups.
Coach, that was actually almost exactly the question I was going to ask you as well, was about that pressure, because I think it was Peyton the other day, or it might have been Zoe, one of the two, was talking about how pressure, in a lot of ways, we see it in the front seven, but it starts in the back. So much of it starts in the backfield. Is that just kind of, you think, what they were talking about with pressure really starting in the backfield, was being able to contain the backfield and man-to-man coverage, or can there maybe even be a little bit more where the defensive backfield kind of gets involved in pressure, whether that's sacks and tackles for loss, or even just, passing game pressure like you were talking about?
Yeah, it certainly can be. It just becomes a question of, again, what can the players do? And so how many guys on the field are capable of covering? It's always kind of, as a coach, sometimes you get questions, maybe just hanging out at the grocery store or hanging out at a family reunion, and, hey, why don't you double cover so-and-so? And then it's like, well, if we double cover that guy, then who do we not cover? And well, if we bring all these secondary guys in the blitzes, then who has to cover these so talented wide receivers out there on the edge? So it's really just a matter of taking a look at the 15, 16, 17 guys that come through the rotation and are that we consider our best group of players, and then doing as much as we possibly can with them, being as aggressive as we possibly can. And I think Coach Tuiaki has been doing that really for 6 years. And what you're seeing here is it's all about players. It's player centric. There's not a pressure, there's not a blitz that we've run in the last 2 weeks that hasn't been in our playbook since day one when we got together 6 years ago.
All right, Mitch and then Shep.
Coach, we hear the phrase, you improve the most from week 1 to week 2. Now that the first 2 weeks are in the books, where did the defense and special teams, for that matter, maybe improve the most from that week 1 to week 2 from your film study?
Well, it was good to get Jake Oldroyd back in the kicking game. Justin Smith stepped in and did a nice job there against Arizona. But, Jake, from the kickoff standpoint, was able to give us a little bit more hang time and distance. And so we were able to go down and cover kicks a little bit better and keep their kickoff return game from being much of a factor. And then, the punt, I thought we regressed a little bit. I got to give credit, of course, to Utah and their ability to return punts. And they did a great job of blocking up some things. Ryan Rico, I've got to do a better job with him. He's a real weapon, and we could have done some things to negate that. You asked, if I remember right, you asked the question about special teams and defense?
Yeah, if you could share some inside defense too.
The kickoff return and the punt return weren't much of a factor in the game for us from our return standpoint. And then defensively, I feel like the guys are playing with a lot of confidence in each other right now, and that's – I think some of the previous questions I've been answered allude to that as well from a coach to player standpoint. But I think our players are gaining a lot of confidence in each other, and that helps them to play aggressive and play 1/11th football. And in fact, we were disappointed. A large chunk of the yardage that we gave up the other night was just some mental errors where maybe we weren't playing 1/11th football. We were trying to do too much and play outside the system.
And this weekend, one of the teams that you were part of as a player, 1996 squad, is going to be honored over the weekend. I know you're going to be preparing for the game, and you're not going to probably have much time to really celebrate with those guys, but they're all coming into town. Maybe just can you reflect on maybe the legacy that 96 team has had on BYU football and maybe your relationship with those guys over the years?
Oh, yeah. That's, how it is. We play alongside guys like that and then are able to accomplish something special. And, many of the guys I'm still in touch with regularly. Others, it's kind of interesting, maybe not to see somebody for 10 years and then see someone at a function. And it's like there was never any break in the conversation. And so it's I'm really looking forward to seeing the guys get back here. There's that legacy that, BYU is always going to have. We've got several of my former teammates' sons and nephews on this team. And that's always a family affair at BYU. And of course, to be able to see some of those guys this Saturday and hopefully give them something to cheer about, that's very important to me.
Thanks.
Coach, are there enough similarities between Jaron and Jaden Daniels that in terms of preparation, going against Jaron helps you against a quarterback like Jaden Daniels in terms of trying to keep him in the pocket and keep that containment?
Of course, yeah, we see that, for years now, working against Jaron, and whether it's spring practice or a chunk of fall camp, and then on a day-to-day basis during the season, we don't match up, a travel squad against travel squad offense, defense very often, but we do it for maybe 10, 15, even 20 minutes per day, and we have always had to have some running quarterback packages in the defense. And fortunately we've always had a few guys that can do that, starting, with Taysom the first year we were here and on down. There's always been somebody that can help prepare us for the game day when we have that challenge.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, last question, Jay.
Hey, Ed, you just mentioned the legacy players and players on your team now with fathers that played. Is that more prevalent at BYU in your experience than other schools, or is that just kind of pretty commonplace?
Well, it sure is for me, but also, coaching at BYU has been a real blessing for me. I've been at some other schools that don't have a strong tradition, so I wonder if it's all at BYU, if it's all the church affiliation and the fact that young men often want to grow up wanting to come to BYU for the chance to live their spiritual lives in the way that they envision. But I've got to think part of it too is just the long legacy of success, and fathers are graduating from their experience here and look back fondly on it and the success, and they want that for their sons regardless of the the spiritual aspect, and that's what makes BYU such a special place to coach as well. Is that, you know, there's a strong tradition here that we get to inherit and be a part of.
And then I just wanted to ask you a little bit about Isaiah Herron. I know you don't coach him, you know, directly, but you recruited him and you kind of found him out of Las Vegas, if I remember right. How proud are you of him and what he's done? And also, did it take some talking into to keep him when he entered the transfer portal and then came back?
Yeah, great questions. Yeah, so Isaiah, I was Isaiah's first offer. I have a really good relationship with his high school coach, and yeah, I can remember when I first met Isaiah and offered him on the spot, watched him run around a little bit, and was able to just make the offer right there that day. And yeah, so any time that there's a handful of players on our team that's the situation, you know, where as a coach you make that first offer and you can see the joy and the wonderment and the dreams kind of flash across the face of the young man, and so to see that at that time, to be able to remember that, and then over the years to develop a relationship and see him go through ups and downs, and it's just part of college and part of growing up, and you know, there's not a lot of growth that occurs without struggle, and he's had his struggles here and he's had his triumphs, and right now he's just on such a hot streak, and has learned from things in the past that he wants to be, you know, that he wanted to improve on and off the field. And I'm so proud of him right now. So happy to see him every day, the attitude that he brings, the leadership that he brings, and what he's bringing to the field. It's I think it really transcends not just through the whole defensive backfield, but the whole team. The question you had about the transfer portal, you know, I'm really I've always had a good relationship of trust with Isaiah, and that's what I wanted to keep. And we had a pretty lengthy conversation when he made that decision. And I said that I was 100% in support of his decision. I don't believe in trying to talk guys into staying. I wouldn't do that in any type of business. And I don't want people here that aren't 100% sure that they want to be here. And so I think that what that did, that afforded him the time. And it was about just, you know, I don't know, it seemed like to me 5 or 10 days later that I got a call back from him where he appreciated the support and encouragement and had second thoughts and wanted to know if we would consider taking him back. And absolutely, of course, we're in this until the end for him.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Drew.
All right, that's going to be it for Coach.
Okay. Thanks, Ed.
Thank you. Jake, you can have the first question for Earl.
Hey, Ari, I came in late. Who else is coming besides Mariner?